Okay, I want to welcome you all to the National Good Food Network webinar, Good Food at Retail Models of Success. My name is Jeff Farbman. I'm from the Wallace Center at Winrock International. The Wallace Center helps to coordinate the National Good Food Network. So you may not have heard that. Oh, okay. First, let me give you a quick tech overview of the basic features of the webinar software so that you can have the best experience. Your screen should look something like this, the presentation area over there on the left and the control panel on the right. If your screen looks like this, your control panel is minimized. It's right over here. You'll probably want access to your control panel during the presentation, so if it is minimized, click the double arrow or the orange arrow button. To keep the control panel visible, go to the View menu up here, and then select Auto Hide the Control Panel to remove the check mark from the menu option if it's there. If you're participating using a telephone, make sure you check that box, Use Telephone. Your dial-in instructions are here, and then your personalized audio pin is right here. The audio portion of the control panel also shows some other useful information. For instance, you are muted as an attendee, and it'll also show you the person who is currently speaking. Though you are muted, we do encourage you to interact often with the panelists using text. To do this, either to interact with the panelists or tech support, use that questions box. If your question is for particular panelists, go ahead and note that. Your submitted question appears in the questions log in gray, indicating the panelists have received your question, though no one else on the webinar can see your question. When you do submit questions, be specific and detailed, since due to the webinar format, your question may be answered later and in a different context from when you ask it. Our panelists will be monitoring your questions as they come in. Some will be answered verbally after the formal presentations, but keep your eye on the questions box, since our panelists may also type answers to your questions addressed to them. So I encourage you to ask your questions early and often so our panelists can address as many of your questions as possible. This webinar will be recorded. The video and audio will be archived on the ngfn.org website. The slides will be posted there, as will a transcript of all the typed responses during the webinar. Previous webinars are already archived there. Finally, I wanted to alert you at the conclusion of the webinar, your browser will open showing a very brief survey. Please take a minute or two to fill it out so that we can continue to make the webinars as valuable a service to you as possible. Today's webinar is about getting more good food into retail, which affects everyone along the value chain from small and mid-sized farmers on through. We are lucky enough to have fantastic examples of successful programs aimed at getting more local food and regional food into establishments and ultimately out to the customer. With such a range of businesses represented on this webinar, you're likely to hear something in these case studies that you'll be able to apply to your work or your organization. This webinar is brought to you by the National Good Food Network, a national collaboration of businesses and organizations, researchers and growers, government, and other food system professionals who are dedicated to scaling up good food. We're focused on those growers who want to move beyond farmers markets and CSAs and into selling food to regional grocers, food service distributors, institutions, and the like. With an emphasis on market-based approaches, the network enables those creating regional food systems to do a better job, to access resources, to increase their learning, and to provide networking opportunities so that we can reach more consumers with healthy, fair, affordable, and green food, get more acres into sustainable development, and create a more viable economic situation for regional food systems and farmers. Right up front, I want to thank our panelists for agreeing to participate in this webinar, especially this time in the year. Thanksgiving and into the winter holidays, it's an incredibly busy time in retail, and we are ever grateful to all of our panelists for their time. Let me introduce our moderator, Warren King, who will in turn introduce each of our presenters and manage the question and answer session towards the end of the webinar. Again, I want to encourage you to type in your questions early and often so we can optimize the learning on this webinar. As a member of the NGFN Advisory Council, Warren King brings his deep knowledge of and passion for local and sustainable food. Warren spent the majority of his professional career as a trader and commodities broker at Cargill, gaining a deep understanding of the underlying fundamentals of the food system. Since leaving Cargill, Warren has worked as a consultant to numerous nonprofits and small businesses in the areas of food and natural products in the roles of researcher, contributor, and project manager. He has served as general manager of Goodness Greenness, the Midwest's largest certified organic produce wholesaler, and was appointed to serve on the state of Illinois' local organic food and farming task force. We are delighted to have Warren as an advisor to the network and as today's moderator. Warren?
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and I want to again welcome the audience, and thank you all for joining us. Our discussion, as Jeff said, will focus on 3 very different retail grocers, their models, and what they're doing to bring local and regional foods to their customers. Why they do it, what some of their challenges are, and suggestions on how you on this phone call can help to increase the amount of good food that's available in your local grocery stores. Our 3 panelists today, Vanessa Zyphon. Vanessa is the program manager for the Center for Food and Justice at Occidental College. Ruffin Slater. Ruffin is the founder and general manager of Weaver Street Market. And Mike Orff. Mike is the produce supervisor of Hy-Vee Incorporated. So let me give a little bit further introduction to Vanessa. She will be our first panelist here today. Vanessa works closely with local farmers, distribution firms, and other farm-to-institution practitioners to develop market-based solutions and local food programming opportunities to increase access and flow of good food in low-income communities across Southern California. Vanessa has a BA from UC Santa Cruz, an MS in Sustainable Agriculture from Iowa State University, and formerly owned and operated Beyond Organic Produce Company. The company specializes in sourcing and selling locally grown foods. So please welcome Vanessa.
Thank you so much, Warren. I appreciate the introduction. I have the dubious pleasure of going first and seeing if I can get this technology to cooperate with me. So bear with me as we try and pull up my presentation. There we go. Great. Well, it's a real honor to be talking here today with these folks and be sharing with you our retail partnerships that we've developed here at Occidental College with the WIC-only stores in the Los Angeles community to help them source, sell, and give away local foods in their WIC-only stores. Let's see, just jump right in. Control. Slide, maybe? There we go. So what are we doing? Well, we've created a program that we call the Harvest of the Month 200 program, and we've attempted to really develop a marketing mechanism which allows WIC-only stores to promote, give away, and now sell local foods. And we've helped them do that through local food giveaways. These local food giveaways are promotional giveaways handed out to WIC customers in WIC-only stores at the point of voucher redemption. We give away 1 to 1.5 pounds of pre-packed local foods and include educational materials with that giveaway. The local food items change each month based on seasonal availability, of course. And we have additional elements that support this local food giveaway, like in-store merchandising and community events, which I'll talk about in the future. And we had also intended to do taste tests in stores as part of the marketing package, but it wasn't allowed at that time by state and federal WIC rules. Now, due to changes in the food package, we are able to conduct taste tests in these stores, and we will begin to do that in the next few months. This project thus far has been piloted in 4 stores only in 4 different retail chains. And we chose to do the giveaways, again, because prior to October 2009, fresh fruits and vegetables could not be bought or sold in any WIC outlets. So as you can see, we started this in May 2009. We are continuing to do it since the changes in the food package, but we are also now allowing those foods to be available for purchase. And again, we give away educational materials and other such things with the local foods.
Vanessa, excuse me, we have a request that you might speak a little louder.
Sure, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide. The goals of the program are varied. Primarily, we want to be selling and promote the sale of local fruits and vegetables. We want to increase WIC customers' access to local, fresh, and healthy foods. We want to create an education and marketing campaign around local foods. And lastly, establish a framework or template for integrating locally grown foods into the WIC-only and other retail settings through new sales and or marketing mechanisms we can provide. Slide. Before I go any further, I should probably explain to the audience what WIC-onlys are. WIC-onlys are actually stores which sell and vend only WIC-approved items such as milk, formula, cheese. These stores only accept WIC vouchers. These stores may only accept WIC vouchers, others a combination of WIC vouchers and cash. So because the currency used in the program rules, foods available for purchase in these stores are limited, and until October 2009, WIC-onlys could not sell fresh fruits or vegetables through the WIC program. Here in California, you may want to go back a slide or two. Here in California, there are 671 WIC-only stores, and they represent about 16% of total authorized WIC vendors in the entire state. So these 671 stores redeem 40% of all WIC vouchers in the state of California. That represents about $308 million in food purchases. That doesn't include fresh fruits or vegetables, of course. Another reason why we wanted to work with these WIC-only stores, in addition to their immense buying power, is that they are retail chains, and they have an ability to expand beyond the pilot and or single site that we're now piloting in. They also obviously have infrastructure and resources that they can bring to the table that some other partners may have not been able to do. And we feel that they have a potentially large impact on the farm economy. So regardless of the constraints in regards to product selection and methods of purchase, the WIC-onlys represent a big opportunity to buy and sell local foods, and they also play a very critical role in voucher redemption and food access in California. With 40% of all vouchers redeemed at these stores, it's obvious that they play and provide a critical service and provide a comfortable place for WIC moms to shop. So why have we chosen to do it through the Harvest of the Month, or use that as our mechanism to get local foods in these stores? Essentially, Harvest of the Month really simplifies the food ordering and food handling process because we're only sourcing one product from one farmer a month rather than trying to source multiple products from multiple farmers in a single month. It's also a really effective education and marketing tool. It's a reoccurring program and has very interactive elements to it as well. And then lastly, there's a well-established school program that we hope will allow for some potential cross-promotion into those schools and into the stores where they're located close to one another. There have been a number of different people that have helped make this happen. Of course, those are our store owners. We have Primetime Nutrition. We have Mother's Nutritional Center, Fiesta Plaza, and Nutrition Fundamental. So in each one of these stores, retail chains, we have one site. Then these are obviously the food buyers and the people that provide the food. We have the nonprofit that's has provided the concept and materials and some food contacts. We have our benevolent brokers, as we call them, that provide us food contacts as well. And then, of course, our local farmers that provide us the great food. So there are some constraints in working with WIC-only stores, and some of those impact our project, obviously, and that's primarily the limited green grocer infrastructure that they have. In the past, because they didn't carry fresh product, they've had limited capacity to actually properly store and stock some of these products. These stores are also relatively small format, so the actual amount of room available to store products in refrigeration and out in the shelves and hang ads or do demos is rather tight. There's no certified food handlers on the premise, so we've got to have all the foods be pre-packed. So essentially no employee can open up a box of food and put fresh product on the shelves. And then, of course, there's the $2 incentive cap. So we cannot give away food that costs us more than $2. So what we give away in terms of packaged foods, materials, and everything has to come in under $2 wholesale. I included a picture that you see in the upper right-hand corner to highlight one of the interesting examples that we had around some constraints with our store owners. One of the store owners sent me this picture and said, Vanessa, what am I going to do with these melons? So the melons on the left are the local melons, and the melons on the right are the melons that he receives from the terminal market in Los Angeles. And as you can see, the local melons are a little, irregularly sized and incorrectly graded, and they all have different levels of ripeness and some bruising and whatnot. And I said, I don't know, let's try and give them away, let's see what we can do. And unbeknownst to me, he went and he did a blind taste test with his staff in his office with the local melons and the melons from the terminal market. And every single staffer picked the local melon as a better tasting melon. So it's just kind of a really interesting example of how local foods, obviously aren't necessarily grown for shelf life or looking too pretty, but they obviously taste tremendous. So hopefully we'll be doing taste tests now to prove that to people, show them, and give you some information here, great, about sort of the local foods and how we've implemented this project. We can go back, great. The program has occurred since May 2009 until now. We've bought and sold about 28,000 pounds of local food. That's about $15,000 worth of sales, and that's cost the store owners about 55 cents per pound for local food wholesale. So again, remember, it's only occurring right now in 4 retail sites, so still a small program. And what do we define as local food? These are restrictions that we place on ourselves, and we want to be sourcing food from small to mid-sized family farms within Southern California. We hope the food comes from 200 miles or less from LA. We want the food to come from farms that are about 200 acres, more or less, where we would like organic or conventional foods. And of course, we want to be buying the foods directly from farmers or organizations representing the farmers. In terms of food safety and product mix, essentially, we have the qualifications we put on the local food producers ourselves. We require just basic business licenses, insurance that any farm or food business has, nothing additional. Obviously, we're looking for fruits and vegetables, but the fruit and vegetables need to sort of cater to a diverse population. So fruits seem to be winning right now. Vegetables are not as popular. We would love to see more branded products and pre-packed local products. We'd love to see the more branded products because that way the local food has its identity and the local farm identity is preserved and conveyed to the consumers when they actually receive the food. As you can see, this picture up in the right-hand corner is our first local food giveaway. It's got Jim Churchill and the Ojai Pixie Growers Tangerines. They're labeled front and center, and it's just a really nice package and helps to sort of reinforce that local messaging. And we don't do any sort of scheduled planting or forward contracting with growers. So food's been delivered to our stores in a number of different ways, or to the stores in a number of different ways based on the farmers and their needs and the infrastructure that they have. The store owners have gone up and picked up the food directly at farms with their trucks. It's been cross-docked at the terminal market. We've actually picked up food, or purchased food, from the terminal market from stores because farmers prefer to sell it that way. We've actually had the store owners' trucks go out to the pack houses and pick it up. After we get the food, we have to send the food to a processor where it's processed, picked up, and then sent back to the stores. So we've got quite a few steps in there. And then there are also the materials that are delivered, developed and delivered, and need to be sent to the stores in order to support the giveaways. So obviously, branded or bagged products would help us eliminate a major middle step here. In terms of farm and food terms, the farmers set the price and they tell us when they want to be paid. The stores are the ones who are buying the food. UEPI, or the nonprofit, does not fund this in any way. And essentially UEPI approaches the growers to participate in the program. And what we're really trying to do is establish an annual calendar of farmers and food products to create consistency and predictability, and therefore we might know how to better market it. Obviously, consistency and predictability is difficult in farming. But with this program, we want to identify and develop buying relationships for the WIC-onlys with farms that have reliable production of a particular product or products in a large enough volume that allows the WIC-onlys to purchase from them. You know, we want to create a flexible template and schedule for ordering these foods, create some predictability so that the marketing materials are easier to develop ahead of time and build on our marketing campaign, and also, you know, build in some mechanisms to make this a program that might be easier to expand to other stores, and that might require less intensive support from UEPI or the nonprofit. In addition to the food giveaways, we have been giving away education and outreach materials, and I'm just going to run through, hoping the slide will catch up with me. Go. I'll show you some of the materials when these slides catch up that we've tested since May. It's been an evolving program, so we've been trying to figure out what's worked, what's appealing to customers, and essentially we've focused on 3 themes when we're marketing our foods, or marketing our message, and that's health and well-being, local food, and getting to know your farmer. So as these flash by on the screen, the first one you saw maybe was our Farmer of the Month profile. This was created by UEPI, and we tried to tie in additional local messaging on the back of the Farmer of the Month profile about upcoming changes to the WIC food package, and let people know that they can begin to rely on WIC stores as sources of local foods, as well as explaining what local food is. Now the slide that we're on now is about the educational materials that we give away as well in the stores. On the left, you can see one of the stores actually took what we made them and used their marketing scheme and sort of adapted it to their look so that they could create continuity with their own marketing tools and strategies. On the right is sort of a traditional Harvest of the Month materials, and essentially those convey a really strong health and nutrition education message. I inserted some language in there about what local food is. The next slide is just showing some of the different iterations that we've had so far. You know, these are examples of more kid-friendly versions of these past flyers. We tried to create them with less text, more pictures, make it something that a young child might be interested in seeing. Let's see if I can advance this. Well, as that's probably going to fly by, so you might or may not see it. 1 second. The latest and greatest tool that we've created with this program, which I'm really proud of actually, and hopefully gets to show you, is our Farmer of the Month baseball cards. We've created essentially baseball cards with each farmer that we work with that month, and we give them away with their product. This is likely going to be our primary local messaging tool because we feel it works for children of all ages from young to old. You know, they may not be able to read the materials that are on the back of the card, but at the very least they can sort of get a sense of this is a farmer and this is who he is. Parents love them. They're collectible and they're very cool. So I would love to show you those, but I'm having trouble. Let's see.
Hang on a sec. You should see it in a second.
I see it. Do you guys see it moving? There we go. These are our Farmer of the Month cards. So this is the first one is with John Tenorelli. He did our Harvest of the Month peaches, and then we have the Albanos that have done our apples for us. And these are the only 2 we've made thus far, but they've been very well received. We'll be continuing to give these away in combination with the Harvest of the Month educational newsletter that they have for parents. And we want to give away these 2 things because we think it reaches key populations, which are of course the parents and the kids. We realize that the local messaging is a little light, so we expect to supplement the local food message with our Farm Fresh Friday community events, which we'll celebrate at each retail site once every 4 months, and so that'll kind of give us that community feel that we're looking for and greater emphasis. There's the combination. There you go. Oh, okay. Let's start here. In addition to the community events, the giveaways, the handouts, we're going to be doing some in-store merchandising, and we're working in conjunction with the state retail program to help us merchandise the indoor of these stores so that we can create kind of a comprehensive look across materials. Marketing in a WIC-only setting is different from other retail settings, as the format and size of these stores are different than traditional retail spaces. And because of the small format, we need to try and avoid clutter and be careful to avoid confusion or clashing with the existing messages in stores. And that's why the material giveaways have been really great for us. We have other things that we'll be trying in the stores: wobblers, recipe card holders, and recipes, of course. And again, the messaging you see here is very strong on health and eating fresh fruits and vegetables. And then just the next couple of slides are some pictures of the actual program in the WIC retail setting. This is our first month that we conducted our Harvest of the Month taste test, or I'm sorry, Harvest of the Month giveaways. And you can see that the stores do have their own kind of look and feel, but they did a really good job of presenting the Harvest of the Month food item and giving it away. The next slide is just a couple moms picking up their tangerines and getting their newsletter. The impact has varied. You know, it's been great. We've seen local foods in new retail settings and food deserts. We're educating new eaters about local food, different eaters. We've expanded markets for farmers. You know, we've exposed new retail food buyers to local products. We've identified buying relationships for them and also partners for processing food. And we're just going to keep on doing what we're doing. We're going to try and increase awareness and expand our marketing campaign to emphasize local foods. We want to be doing the taste test as soon as we can. Of course, the community events, Farm Fresh Fridays, that will help supplement sort of the whole package. And of course, continue to see what we're doing and revise as needed and hopefully nail it. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vanessa. Let me maybe take a couple of quick questions that we got here. I know that's not quite what we discussed yet, but it might be timely to do that. Vanessa, just a question around the giveaway, if you can answer quickly.
Sure.
Who pays for food that's being given away?
The store owners pay for the food.
The store owners. Mm-hmm.
The store owners. Yeah, there's no grant funding for that. We're not giving them grant funding to then purchase the foods. We do pay for the printed materials and give those to the store owners to give away. But they buy it as part of their business plan. Okay,
and then one other quick one here, a question about the 55 cents a pound, whether that's a really fair price to growers. Can they actually make a living on the growers you're working with at a 55 cents a pound price?
Yeah, all the growers that we have worked with have set the price themselves, and so that's an average across the board. Some growers have charged us more for particular foods, some less. We don't do any such negotiating of any kind. So I'm assuming it's working for them because they're telling us that's what they want. So it does seem low, though. It is low, and that's part of this program. I mean, it has to cost us a certain price range or we can't do it.
Okay. Thank you, Vanessa. And I appreciate all the questions from the audience out there. We're going to get to them as many as we can, but we want to move on here. And let me give a quick introduction of Ruffin Slater, co-founder and general manager of the Weaver Street Market. The market is a worker and consumer-owned co-op with 3 stores, a restaurant, and a central kitchen and bakery located in Carborough, North Carolina. Ruffin is also on the board of the National Cooperative Grocers Association. So, Ruffin, please.
Thanks, Warren. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about Weaver Street Market and the importance of local products to our business. We have 3 stores, and just to give you an idea, they're similar to a Whole Foods store and product line, but smaller. Our stores have cafes with hot bars and salad bars, so we do a big lunch and dinner business. At $25 million in sales, we're not very big as grocery stores go. However, we're located in pretty small towns, so we have a certain amount of relevance with about 15% market share. try to advance the slide here, Jeff. I don't know if you can help with that. This is our original store in Carrboro. One thing about all of our stores is that they're located in downtown areas and mixed-use building with office or retail above. Next slide, please. This is a store in Chapel Hill. Next slide, please. And also all of our stores have outdoor eating and gathering spaces. And I think because of that, we're pretty well known and have an impact probably bigger than another store our size might. A lot of people are interested in coming, seeing what's going on and get ice cream and cookie with their kids, things like that, who may not be sort of devoted natural food shoppers. Next slide, please. This is our restaurant, Panzanella. It's a Mediterranean themed restaurant, mid-priced. Next slide. When we opened 21 years ago, we were the only store in our area selling natural and organic foods, and now we have a full complement of competition from national and regional chains, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, a regional chain called Fresh Market, Super Walmart, Target, and so on and so forth. One thing that's happening is natural foods have become more of a commodity. Sort of fewer and fewer are locally produced, and fewer come from smaller farms, as you all know. The result for us of this competition is that after years of sales growth, our sales for the last year and a half have been down. So it's clear to us that our historic niche is no longer relevant, and we need to work to redefine what we're doing to continue to be relevant. And we're staking our future on our ability to expand our offerings of what we call authentic food, which I think is the same as good food, organic, local, and from small producers. And you know, we'd like to have all three of those things, but if it's local and from a small producer, or organic from a small producer but not local, those are still the kind of things that we're looking on, and we include in our definition of authentic food. Next slide, please. About 30% of our sales are local food. Produce is the most obvious one, but not really the biggest in dollar amounts, which come from year-round products like dairy, meat products, and foods that we produce ourselves in our food house, kitchen, and bakery. Next slide, please. In general, what we found in produce, but in all areas, is the key is to make sure that the best sellers are local as much as possible. You know, for example, strawberries. For many years, people thought you couldn't grow organic strawberries in North Carolina because of the humid climate. But now we have a fabulous organic strawberry grower, and so we're seeing you know, thousands of dollars a week from that product. Next slide, please. In the meat area, we've been working for the last couple of years with a program at the Center for Environmental Farming System, part of NC State University, on pasture-raised pork and grass-fed beef. Again, these are big product lines that we've converted to local. Next slide, please. One of the biggest local successes we have is milk and eggs. This slide of a local dairy a couple miles away that bottles on-farm and glass returnable bottles, and we sell over 100,000 units a year. Have another local dairy that does on-farm bottling in plastic for people that aren't interested in the sort of glass bottles. Neither of those two farms are organic. We do have local organic milk producers who we buy through Organic Valley. The milk at this point isn't processed locally, but starts out nearby and ends up nearby after going to Atlanta to be bottled. Next slide, please. Our biggest current venture, about a year ago, we opened up a facility that we call our food house in an effort to sell more local food. And it's a huge investment for us, and the state-of-the-art facility where we have daily production of meat, baked goods, and deli foods that are delivered twice a day to our stores. The advantage for us here is that we can control the quality and the ingredients, and really these are the product lines that we're known for in the market. In our bakery, for example, can use local organic flour, local eggs, and as many other local products as possible for ingredients. And no one else is really doing this. Stores like Whole Foods have gone to larger regional commissary systems for their baked goods, for example. So we can really be a market leader in quality and freshness and products that are coming from our food house. Next slide, please. In terms of marketing local products, what we've discovered and really try and do is the recognition that when we're selling local products side by side by similar product that's not local, obviously the local product doesn't sell as well. So as much as possible, we try and make the local product the main choice in whatever product category it is. And a key to that is to get to the point where the price is competitive. In grass-fed beef, for example, we found that it was a mixed message to have local grass-fed beef and also natural grain-fed beef that was coming from further west. So in terms of marketing, it's much simpler and a clearer message to have only the local product. And it also works better operationally because in stores that are as small as ours, having fewer choices means that the product's turning faster and also selling more local. Of course, we do the regular types of sort of grocery marketing, posters, website, newsletters, specials featuring local producers. Since we have a restaurant, we also do farm dinners where we invite the farmer to dinner, and we have a menu that's based on products from that farm, which have been very successful. Next slide, please. As I mentioned earlier, for us, local food is really critical to our future. We think that's the niche where we can sort of move on and be a leader like we were 20 years ago when natural and organic foods were just becoming more common. And also I think it's an area where we have a competitive advantage in that since we're smaller, we can work with smaller producers and get a bigger selection of local products. The biggest thing I think we can do is to get new lines. Poultry is an obvious one. North Carolina is one of the top couple poultry producing states, and it's a little embarrassing that we don't have local poultry. It's not that we haven't tried over a many-year period of time. We worked helping organize a farmers co-op, invested in a processing facility, and still weren't successful. And I think some of it has to do with the scale. It's our assessment that because of feed and other issues, that poultry operation needs to be a little bit larger scale than what we were doing compared to, say, grass-fed beef. It seems to work well just by buying from an individual farmer. In terms of produce, I think we can always do more. In North Carolina, we had the advantage of having 3 somewhat distinct climatic zones, and so, for example, in the mountains, we can grow products that have a later season, things like apples that don't grow where we do grow in the mountains of North Carolina, and so we're just figuring out how to take advantage of that. I think as we move forward, some of the local products are going to have to be more capital intensive, value-added things, which means collaborating with other groups and organizations. I think we're starting to do that. There's certainly more organizations and grant funding and government interest in local products. And I think we've got a lot of opportunity, but a lot of work in developing those products. Probably the biggest thing within our control is the products that we're making within our food house. I'd say that maybe we're reaching 50% of our potential there, and that there's new products that we can be introducing and converting those products that we're making to more local ingredients. And I think that the final issue and the barrier that we see is just the sort of continued cultural reliance on convenience foods, and that the work that Michael Pollan does, and sort of other advocates for a new food culture. We're very interested in being part of that, and because we are a co-op with 13,000 households, I think that we have opportunity to do more sort of education and sort of fun experiments in trying to just understand and work with people's food preferences in a fun way. And so I think over time, as we come up against some other barriers and just getting our supply up, that's going to be the sort of a key barrier to address in the future. So anyway, that's a little bit about Weaver Street Market and what we're doing with local foods.
Thank you, Ruffin. Let me maybe get to a couple of questions here. One is the farmer groups or farmers that you work with, is it generally individual farmers, co-ops, or do you work through a distributor?
It's almost all farmer direct. And we do have one sort of regional or statewide organic distributor, that we buy from, and they're fairly new, and they're doing more and more, and so that's a growing opportunity. But at this point, pretty much all of what we're doing is direct from the farmers.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And we've got appreciate everyone for continuing to ask questions, and we want to move forward here and give our last presenter an opportunity, and then we'll get back to everyone's questions. Mike Orff is the Southern Region Produce Supervisor for Hy-Vee Stores, an employee-owned retail chain based here in the Midwest. Mike has a vast amount of produce merchandising and produce purchasing experience, and has spent his entire career with Hy-Vee. So I think he truly understands what the store is about, what the brand is about, and what they're doing here in the Midwest around sourcing local and regional foods. So, Mike?
Okay, Warren, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to get to spend some time with you all, and just is a little bit about Hy-Vee and what we do, and kind of where this plays into our business model. And I'm going to need your help, Jeff, if you'd advance the slide for me. Thank you. Yeah, I'll just share a little bit about Hy-Vee. We've been around for 79 years, primarily in the Midwest. Iowa's kind of the heart of our company, and we're just recently with the Madison store, we're now in 8 states. You can see we're, in the grand scheme of things, we're certainly not an enormous retailer or anything, but we do about $6 billion. We have 54,000 employees and over 200 supermarkets, as I said, now in 8 states. We still have some country stores all the way on up to more modern stores as big as 100,000 square feet. And as you mentioned, we are an employee-owned, privately held company, and it's been that way since its inception. And so obviously we're from the heartland of the USA, and obviously local is a real important business segment for us. And it's just a challenge to continue to grow and develop that piece of our business. Jeff, if you advance the slide. So again, as Warren mentioned, I'm a retail supervisor. In our model, I work directly with not only produce but frozen and salad bars. We're responsible for their overall operations. Prior to that, I started as a part-time person in high school and ran several produce departments, developed a lot of relationships with local people. And then after that, I actually went into the buying office and was a produce buyer for a while, and then I've been supervising now for about 2.5 years. But again, it's really important to us to find ways to make a local more feasible and to do a better job of building that category in our stores. So again, appreciate the time to be here. You know, it's clearly, you know, we recognize that the local grown thing is an incredibly fast growing business sector, and really it's fueled by customer demand. So it's a matter of being relevant to our consumers that, you know, we're a place that they associate with being the leaders in this category. So another thing for us here, and I'm sure many of you are involved in this or see it in your markets, that, you know, the emergence of farmers markets and those type of things are huge. So, you know, we certainly recognize that as a competitor and something that's got a perception for our customers that, you know, maybe that's a better place to buy produce. So for us, again, fueled by customer demand would be the point. And not only that, but the other thing is that, you know, we're a very community-oriented company, and within each of the states and cities and places like that, it's important to us that we are relevant to the community. Obviously, sustainability and the entire green movement certainly is another thing that's really helping make local resonate more with the customers. And then really the perception of the fact that it's healthier and better for you, and I think certainly many of our customers feel that way when they buy local. They feel better about it, and they feel like they're less fearful of pesticides and growing practices and things like that. So a little bit about where we're at, and obviously we want to continue to grow our stake in local. Next slide, Jeff. And as I move forward, I want to also talk a little bit about what's a little bit unique about our business model is that we're incredibly autonomous by nature, and meaning that we leave an awful lot of the decision making at store level, and we do not necessarily dictate it all down from the office. So with that is the responsibility for the stores. You know, they're encouraged and trained to make sure that they're developing these local relationships and things like that with the growers as we continue to go to market with that. So, you know, as far as in the Midwest, we try to carry the full complement of items that are available. The biggest challenge being that obviously it's so incredibly seasonal. We've got a 3 or 4 month window where we've really got to do a good job with it. And again, you can see kind of some of the items from sweet corn and muskmelons and tomatoes and cukes and peppers, mostly commodity veg, and then there are some in some areas like local peaches, apples, and things like that. So with that, there's some real volume there. I mean, those are some items that, you know, represent pretty large numbers in many of our stores, and so it's something that we aggressively pursue and work into our merchandising. As far as the process part, even though we're big in convenience packs and value-added type of things, that's probably an area that we have not delved into as much as we could and should into the local arena. So that's probably something that moving forward we need to continue to do a better job of. We do have some people that do salsas and ciders and things like that, and we align ourselves with that as well. As far as local loosely defined, much of our marketing has to do with Midwest, although stores are really encouraged to do a lot better job within that shorter distance miles. And I think maybe Vanessa mentioned a couple 100 miles. That's kind of the guidelines that we try to follow, but there's times that that's not an option, and we're still going to try to do as good a job as we can with things that are growing in our 8-state region. Next slide, Jeff. Can you advance that, Jeff? Thank you very much. Okay, working with growers. And with that, you know, because we're in 8 states with so many sizes of stores and everything, it's really a unique situation at each store. And I think that we've probably done a good job with local in most of our stores. The biggest challenge is probably in how you tell your story and how your customers perceive that. But again, for the most part, these relationships are store by store. We're in a lot of rural towns, and those people that are running those stores, it's their autonomy and responsibility to develop those relationships so that we're well represented in those categories. As we get into larger markets, I work with the Kansas City market, and we have 21 stores there, and we've got a couple outlying stores. So I've got a program that I'm responsible for where we work with about 24 different stores. And so that becomes a bigger chunk of real estate, and it kind of goes at that point to where we need larger growers in some of those markets. One of the guys we use right now farms about 400 acres, and he grows almost the entire list that you just saw, which has been a good thing for us. But moving forward, we also recognize that it's going to be important that we have a little bit more specialized growing habits by people, so that, for example, we have somebody that's a really good sweet corn grower, and maybe we just let him focus on that, and we go to some other farmers for some of the other pieces. I guess going also into this, the difficulty is how do you find growers, different things like that for us. So a lot of this is initiated by the growers coming into our stores, and we're thankful for that. We love it. We want to get to know them and see if we've got some room there where it'd be a good two-way street type of relationship to where we can grow their products. A note of mentioning at the store I'm in right now, the new Columbia Hy-Vee, in the first 4 or 5 days, I had 3 different local people approach me here in the store, interested in opening the dialogue and start talking, and that's incredible, really good for us. And so we will meet with those people and get to know them a little bit better and find out what they grow and how they grow, and kind of a timeline, a calendar, if you would, of when we could expect their products to be available. We even had some of our produce managers and people like that that'll stop at a farm stand or a pickup truck along the road and meet people that way and start a dialogue that will get some of their products into our stores. So again, really important to us, and we just need to keep the lines of communication open and find ways to continue to grow and develop this category. Next slide, Jeff. Basically, we don't work with contracts on this, but I would say that certainly we have gentlemen's agreements with people and good working relationships where we've continued to do business year after year with people. So we do get involved and talk about the planning decisions early on. I know we're actually in the process of that with some people that I'm working with right now, because it's in our area, it's going to be about time to start buying seed and different things fairly soon. As far as working with growers, I think one of the obstacles is the consistency and quality. And I know that, I could use an example of like peppers, and I know that typically our stores will try to carry a large or extra large, and I know there's times where they just don't size up and they're smaller, and I think those are the kind of things that, even though I know we've got to find ways to sell that product, for the farmers represented here, it kind of gives us a step back, I think, at store level in terms of the perception that we're creating with quality. So big challenge is just that consistent quality and sizing and different things that I think customers kind of expect. And when they don't find that, that presents some opportunities for us. Next slide, Jeff. Which brings us to just logistics. Our company being located centrally in Iowa and the surrounding states, we actually operate all the produce out of a single distribution center in Sheridan, Iowa, for over 200 stores. And so due to that causes some problems. For example, in the areas that I work with down in Missouri and Kansas, it's just not feasible to take that product up to a distribution center to come back down to the stores. So we work with growers primarily that will deliver to the stores. And an individual that I work with, he'll deliver in peak times 1 to 2 semi-loads 6 days a week to our stores. And we kind of have a rotation and different things like that. But as you can imagine, that's a pretty huge piece. And create some opportunities for us when you're going to 10 or 11 stores a day, 6 days a week, splitting that out. So that's one of our opportunities. So again, in most cases, the growers deliver directly to our store unloading dock, and that's important to us. And then again, most of those growers are paid through just standard invoicing. I think that I saw on one of the slides, I can't remember if it was Vanessa or Ruffin, that had something on there about co-ops. And you know, I've seen that work in the past, in fact. And right now, I know when I was working in the Des Moines, Iowa area, at one time we had a co-op that did a really good job of bringing product to market and into the stores. And unfortunately, it didn't. They weren't able to sustain it and keep it going at a profit, and that's no longer available. Well, I don't know if anyone's having luck with that. That would be probably something that we could all glean from, and you know, how do people get to market, etc. Next slide. Of course, food safety is going to continue to be really top of mind and an important piece of this as it evolves. But right now, we do not have a formal criteria as far as GAP certification or those type of things. We do have survey forms that we have all of our growers fill out, and basically we're just trying to ask the right questions from how the runoff situation will be. Are they using best growing practices, fertilization, some of those types of places. If they're insured and how much they're insured for and things like that. Obviously, that's going to continue to evolve and be a real hurdle for all of us in this area. We also encourage growers and have many of them that work with extension services and universities and those types of things and use that resource in their best practices. So again, that's important. And then those surveys and records are maintained at each store as well as sent into the corporate office. And then we keep those on file, and they're reviewed by people that are more specialized in that area. And as far as what the future holds, you know, we certainly believe there'll be more uniform regulations and mandatory things from the government that will cause us to continue to have more stringent, I guess, just stronger regulations and things for us to comply to. So, next slide. You know, as I mentioned, we really believe that the demand is certainly fueled by our customers, and I would think that it would be safe to say that customers expect that even in a pretty conventional grocery store like our own. So, you know, it's a liability without it. So it's really important that, you know, that we've got that perception with our customers. And then within that, and, you know, we do a lot of things with signage and banners, real similar to even some of the things that you've seen on there. We love to use our growers' pictures and bios and things like that on displays and window banners and those types of things, because I think it really resonates with them and helps the consumer connect it. This is growing from this farmer over here, and I really think customers feel great about when they buy local. And so, again, we need to continue to make sure we've got that perception. A little bit about as far as how we merchandise. Most of our stores will have, you know, a large area where they'll just basically devote totally to local in the peak of the season. And, you know, that could be a display 20 to 30 feet long with a myriad of items that are available. And it really makes a statement in the stores. And I mean, all the way that we've had stores that they'll bring an old pickup truck and put it up in a lobby area, and then they'll build like a farmer's market around it and things like that. And there's a lot of things like that that they try to do just to create excitement and, again, to raise that awareness. And it makes it very fun for the customer. It makes it fun for the store, and gives it a real focal point. But even doing that, there's still a place and time where we'll integrate some of those items in with maybe a lineup of conventional items and almost have them double set. And I think that we find that by doing both, we drive sales and sell more product than if you have it in an individual place only. Next slide. Organic issue. Organic continues to be one of the fastest growing segments in the fresh produce arena. And that being said, I haven't personally experienced that play out very well in local. So hopefully we'll learn some things today on that area. It's big and growing. I think one of the real barriers, just from my own personal perception, has been that I've seen really large gaps in what the costs are at store level. So, as it says down below that, we wouldn't pay $6 a dozen for organic corn when conventional is $2.50, and those are the kind of things that right now, to me, on many of those things, the spread on the cost is so substantial that it makes it hard to sustain. I think that when you look at the conventional produce world and how that relates to organic, in many cases that gap is closed considerably to where it's not exorbitantly more for customers who pay a lot more for organic. And as that comes in, we would welcome and certainly love to see organic be more compatible with the local arena and to do a better job for us. I think that the real difference, and listen to Ruffin talk about his stores, they're much more designed like Whole Foods. That's really not our model, and we love those niches. I'm incredibly impressed with them. But typically that's a somewhat different customer than a conventional supermarket type of a customer, and we just see that that's still pretty price sensitive and that we've got to be careful on the price spread. So again, we haven't seen it work well with local and organic yet, but we certainly would welcome that and hope that that's something that would continue to evolve. Next slide. Next slide, Jeff. Could you advance the slide? There we go.
Mike, can you see this slide?
Yes.
Okay, I think this is the next slide.
I'm on. Okay, it just showed up. I apologize. So anyway, we just see the local thing continue to get bigger and better, and again, just striving to continue to develop relationships with growers. That's going to be an important part of the whole thing, and expanding our local offerings, the types of products, how much we can carry them, and then our ability to convey that to our customers and just continue to tell our story, because we certainly see it as a point of difference, and we need to strive to be the place that people go to. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, thank you very much. Let me ask you one specific question around local products and whether that's fresh fruits and vegetables or processed foods. You mentioned that, particularly in the processed foods area, that you think Hy-Vee could do more. Are there particular stores that you could say are doing better than others around purchasing local foods, or whether they're processed or fresh, and why you think some of those stores are are doing a better job?
Well, I think that we do a really good job with conventional processed items. One, we just haven't gone there, and honestly, I haven't really seen a lot of our competitors doing it from that standpoint either. But I mean, take for example, like all the cut fruit programs and the different things like that are, the cantaloupe chunks and things like that. I think that that's the piece where more of that type of value-added things, I think that we could do a better job with a lot of your local deals and add the value to it and make it more convenient for the customer.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mike. Let me try, because we have lots of questions here and about 9 or 10 minutes left in this session, so let me try and group some of these together. If we don't get to them all, I apologize. Hopefully, while we're doing this, some of our panelists can get back to you individually. So a question out here that I think everyone is asking is about liability insurance and do you have requirements? This is a question for any of our panelists. Do you have requirements for particular local farmers in the form of liability insurance, and what is that? What is that requirement?
This is Vanessa. The WIC store owners do not have or require additional liability insurance. The WIC stores have their own liability insurance that covers the food that they purchase. And the farms that we work with are of a certain level that we know they have at least $2 million to $5 million in liability insurance.
Okay, thank you. Mike or Ruffin?
Yeah.
And any requirements for liability insurance if you're going direct?
This is almost fairly new territory for us. We've only been in this a couple of years where we've even really required that. There's not really a set amount, but that's part of the requirement in terms of what we ask them to send in, and we do want them insured, but we don't actually have a set dollar amount as a minimum at this point. I would imagine that will continue to happen.
Thanks.
It'd be about the same for us, Warren. We ask them to have it, but we're not super strict in following up on it.
Okay. This question is probably more for Mike and Ruffin as larger retailers. There's several questions, kind of regarding seasonality and having produce on store shelves, which at least in my experience is what customers expect. And the question really is how do you kind of balance the trade-off of small and local and small 1,200 miles away? How do you differentiate in that? How do your customers know the difference? Do you tell your customers the difference?
Well, for us, Warren, I think a lot of it is just the seasonality. So if we can get it locally, or if it's climatic zones, so there's just some things that if we can get it locally. The first priority is if it can be grown locally to try and source it locally. And then beyond that, our criteria is if it's coming from further away, our preference is for it to come from a small producer and some producer that has, working with family farms, that kind of criteria we would apply.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mike, how about you?
Well, and it's going to be a little bit different from us in some regards, but as far as Ruffin mentioned, the seasonality, I think that customers, obviously they understand that. We have hard winters and really short growing seasons, so customers understand that when we've got to grow to other areas, they certainly recognize it because it's not available. The difference for us is when it's not local, as far as the size of the grower, it's not that we're necessarily looking for larger or smaller, except for we've got to be able to get enough to supply 200 stores. And from the purchasing side of things, we're working really hard to make sure that we've got the best quality. When local's not there for us, the differentiation is you know, what we feel like is the best eating experience, from flavor profiles and sugar bricks and those types of things, as well as eye appeal, because that really is what we find sells produce the best.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Vanessa, this is one for you. So you have this pilot going on in 4 WIC-only stores. You know, what's the expected outcome? How are you going to know you're successful in this pilot, and maybe look to expand it to other WIC stores?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different things that will indicate success, and I think one is the amount of food that we're buying, but also sort of the method by which we're buying it. You know, we're kind of feeling our way through this month by month, you know, week by week. Sometimes it's literally picking up the phone and being like, "Oh, do you have apples? Like, can you send them over?" And we'd like to try and develop some more consistency and ease in ordering. And I think once we do that, we'll be able to roll this out to other store sites. So I think the next step in terms of increased success with the program, we'll be seeing it in other stores in the chains that we actually work with now.
Okay, thank you. This one for Mike and Ruffin. You both said that you know, while you have agreements and you work with local producers, you don't necessarily have contracts. Would you say that's typical in the retail industry, and are some of the larger growers, say in, you know, California, Texas, those kind of things, are they getting contracts but the local growers not?
Well, I would say for Hy-Vee's standpoint, we do not. We buy almost nothing on contract, and you know, there's a lot of that going on out there. We know that we're on share groups and different people that we try to share information of. So yes, we see that happening a lot, but we don't typically contract on items. In most things, we do really all on a gentleman's agreement, and yet we develop these relationships for long term, and it's worked really, really well for us. And really, that's the same model for store level. But as far as contracting or whatever locally, there's so many things where, you know, if there's weather issues and you've got all your eggs in one basket, different things like that, you know, it can also be pretty devastating for us. So that's not really how we're going to do things.
Okay, Ruffin?
You know, for us, I think it's similar to what Mike said. It's about the relationship, and you know, we know all our growers. We visit them. You know, they shop in our stores frequently, and it's all based on that. You know, in terms of how other people do it, you know, the stores I'm familiar with, you know, don't have contracts, and like Mike said, I'm sure at some level, you know, there probably are, but not for us.
Okay. Let me see here. I've got a question or two around affordability. Certainly, Vanessa's model is getting right at that. You know, the one of the tenets in good food, that it be affordable. Mike and Ruffin, in Hy-Vee stores or in the Weaver Street, what do you guys think you're doing to make your food more affordable for low-income people?
Well, I think, you know, Mike, you know, sort of touched on it there. You know, there's a price at which people will buy, and then there's a price above which they won't buy. And for us, I think mostly it's to try and find the products that are kind of winners, you know, that have the combination of being local and affordable, and really promote those products. I think beyond that, you know, we're more of a specialty store, and for example, cheeses, for example, will have cheese or local wine, you know, that will be, you know, sort of a premium priced product. You know, we have cheeses that, you know, cost twice as much per pound, the local does, compared to, you know, sort of a more of a commodity cheese. And the market is certainly more limited for those, and you know, something that we try and think about ways to reduce price. But I think the reality, a lot of it is just, you know, that the food system is based on volume, and, you know, trying to find the lowest possible price producer and small local producers are at a disadvantage there.
Mike?
Well, on that, I would just say that, while we do the local thing and we love it and are committed to it, it doesn't necessarily always translate to cost of the goods to the customer. Oftentimes, because even without all the freight and different things like that, our cost of goods to the store oftentimes is as high as conventional, sometimes even higher than what it would cost me to bring something in from California to Iowa. So from the value side, we've got a price range value and have price points that are killing the product. And when local is done, a customer's not going to necessarily notice a huge influx in price hikes because it really doesn't necessarily translate that way. And that's when we're going to work hard on, having the best product is really our differentiation and try to give as much value and deals and things like that with those products as we can.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, we are officially at our limits here.
Yeah, let me just give a quick concluding statement. You guys have been great. Thank you so much, and thank you to the attendees. It's really so exciting to get all these questions. I hope it's been very useful to you. If you want to know more about the NGFN, go to ngfn.org. That's our website. You can sign up for email updates there on the homepage to get notice of the future webinars and other National Good Food Network activities, as well as our monthly e-newsletters. You can also add your profile to our growing database of people, organizations, and funders involved in the good food movement while you're there on ngfn.org, and I encourage you to do that. We're also on Twitter for a more up-to-the-minute feed of information for network activities. That's twitter.com/ngfn. Remember, this webinar and all these slides will be archived on ngfn.org, and any of the questions that were written out, typed out answers will be also posted up there, so you can review and tell people who missed it that they missed a special event and they can go and see it. You can also find our previous webinars there, archived there as well, and we're really building quite a nice resource of learning. The NGFN webinars are always on the third Thursday of each month at 3:30 p.m. Eastern. So the next one is December 17th, and the topic of that one is Farm to School and the National Farm to School Network, which the NGFN is partnering with to organize a convening next May. There's really a lot of synergy between our networks, and we're excited about that partnership. On that webinar, you hear about policy, changes at USDA that will help to continue this good work, and a really interesting case study to see the practical side of how farm to school and I guess in general farm to institution programs really work. If you have questions or suggestions, please email us, contact@ngfn.org. It's right up there on the screen. And I just wanted to remind you again that when we end the webinar, there's just going to be a very short survey that will automatically load into your browser. It's really helpful to us if you fill out that survey so that we can continue to improve these webinars and really the utility of the network for you in general. Once again, thank you so much. Thank you, Ruffin and Vanessa, Mike, and Warren. This concludes the webinar, and we will see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you.